Eliminators begins with the story of a male security guard who works at a bank in London. Previously, he was a former American federal agent. However, due to following the witness protection program, he had to quit his former job, change his real name and move from America to London. His real name is Martin Parker. While living in London, he changed his name to Thomas Mackenzie. Now Thomas lives alone with his 8-year-old daughter, Carly. As usual, Thomas' morning routine is like any parent in general. He wakes up his daughter in the morning and takes her to school. After that, he went to work. He spends a lot of time sitting at the security post, reading magazines and occasionally viewing CCTV footage at work. In the afternoon, he returned home and accompanied his daughter before bed. When he went into the dining room, suddenly he saw the reflection of the car's headlights shining brightly towards his house. He rushed to check out the house and see who had come. However, just as he was about to open the door, suddenly some masked men came and immediately beat him with a baseball bat. Fights ensued from the living room to the dining room, where Thomas fought the 3 robbers alone until he was unconscious. Not long after, Thomas woke up from his stupor. He immediately asked the 3 robbers who had just ganged up on him and why they attacked him. One robber finally took off his mask and said they wanted to take the cocaine package at Thomas's house. Thomas, who knew nothing about the cocaine package they asked about, then replied that maybe they had the wrong address. The 3 robbers did not believe it immediately and threatened to kill Carly. Then, Thomas asked them to look at his house's electricity bill and read his name. Finally, the 3 robbers realized that they had the wrong address. The robbers who had taken off their masks looked shocked. However, because he had already taken off his mask, the robber was sure that Thomas would report him to the police station. Therefore, the robber plans to keep killing Thomas. Seeing the situation getting more precarious, Thomas snatches a gun from one of the masked robbers standing nearby. One by one, the 3 robbers were shot dead by him. After things have calmed down, Thomas intends to report the attack at his house to the police station. While calling on his cell phone, he suddenly fainted again due to the heavy blows he received during the attack. Carly shouted hysterically for her father, and the sound of police car sirens began to be heard outside the house. The next day, Thomas was in the hospital where one of his hands had been handcuffed to the side of the bed. Not long after, a detective inspector named Quinn came and informed him that he was arrested for killing 3 foreign men in his house. Thomas was shocked to hear the charges and said he killed the 3 robbers in self-defense. Furthermore, Quinn added that Thomas could not be identified, which showed that he was an illegal resident. Later, the detective said that Carly had been under surveillance at Child Social Services. In the evening, while watching TV, Thomas saw a news broadcast featuring his real name and a photo of himself. The news broadcast also reported about his profile before moving to London. Later, a female nurse came into his treatment room and handed him a phone saying that his lawyer would speak on the phone. Turns out it was an old friend of Thomas's federal agency called Ray Monroe. Ray said he was on a flight to London and would come to see him at the hospital in 2 hours. Ray informs that he will be forced to reveal the real identity of Thomas to the London police so that he can be released. Thomas borrowed a pen and paper to jot down Ray's cell phone number on the call. Then, he accidentally dropped the pen so he could take the clip from the paperclip he was holding to write down the phone number. As soon as a police guard and nurse came out of his room, he immediately opened the handcuffs with ease using the clip earlier. Then, he attacked a police guard standing in front of his room, and he was also easily able to knock out 2 more policemen who were standing guard in the hospital hallway. Elsewhere, seen in a room, is a meeting between 2 high-class mafias from America with Cooper's illegal arms dealer. The 2 mobsters looked angry and asked for their money back because the weapons they bought from Cooper were of poor quality. Not much to say, Cooper tried the weapon he was selling by pointing a gun at the 2 mobsters. It turned out that the gun worked perfectly, and in the end, the 2 mobsters were killed. After killing the 2 mobsters earlier, Cooper's assistant, a sadistic-looking woman, enters the room and shows the news about Thomas through her cell phone. The assistant told him that Thomas was now in England. It turns out, Cooper is Thomas' father-in-law, and he intends to kill his son-in-law to take Carly, who he will make as the successor of his business in the future. Not long after, Cooper contacted a famous assassin in mainland Europe named Bishop. Cooper asks Bishop to kill his son-in-law and kidnap his granddaughter unharmed. With his high fee, Bishop immediately agreed to Cooper's request. He immediately tracked Thomas' whereabouts in London. At a child social service, Carly is accompanied by a female detective agent named Stacy. Stacy is a fellow detective Inspector Quinn who interrogated Thomas at the hospital this afternoon. Quinn enters the room and tells Stacy that they will leave the place and take Carly to another hideout. Shortly after they left the child social service, Thomas arrived and knocked out a male receptionist. From the information he got from the receptionist earlier, his daughter was on the 3rd floor. When going up to the 3rd floor, Thomas saw Bishop hacking into the computer in the room. It was also seen from the reflection of the glass that Bishop had killed a man. Seeing that, Thomas immediately rushed out of the room. Bishop immediately chased him out of the room, firing a gun. He kept looking for Thomas on every floor of the place. When he was busy searching for Thomas' whereabouts, Thomas found that he had managed to return to the room when he saw Bishop for the first time. Then, he searched for data about his daughter through the database on the computer. After he found his daughter's data, he immediately deleted the data on the computer and damaged Bishop's cell phone, which was used to hack the computer. Then, he rushed out of the building and got into a taxi parked right in front of the building. Not long after, Bishop came out, and with a cursing, he saw Thomas had fled in a taxi. Bishop immediately chased Thomas in his sophisticated car. Through the computer in his car, he was able to find and connect with the taxi driver who brought Thomas. He pretends to be a police officer and informs that the passenger the taxi driver is carrying is a criminal targeted by the police. Then he asked the taxi driver to stop at a gas station so he could come and arrest him. The innocent taxi driver obeyed Bishop's orders and immediately pulled over at a gas station. When Bishop arrived at the gas station, he saw no one in the taxi. Then he went into the gas station office and checked the CCTV footage. In the footage, it can be seen that Thomas has gotten out of the taxi and jumped into the back of the yellow truck that had been at the gas station. Bishop immediately chased the yellow truck. As he approached, Thomas realized that Bishop was in the back of the truck and was chasing him. He immediately jumped down from the truck and ran into a cable car not far from the truck he was riding in. When he entered the cable car, he saw two burly men and a businessman. Bishop, who was late getting into the cable car, pulled out a wad of money and offered the men in the cable car a reward of £10,000 if they managed to knock Thomas out. Hearing the gifts offered, without thinking, the two burly men immediately attacked Thomas in the cable car that was running. A fierce fight ensued between Thomas and two well-built men while the other passenger, a businessman, looked cornered and frightened. In a fight in the cable car, Thomas managed to knock out the two burly men. Not long after, he borrowed a cell phone from one of the passengers to call Ray to pick him up at the cable car station within 4 minutes. Ray, who was driving, immediately stepped on the gas to pick up his colleague on time. It turned out that Bishop was also waiting for him fully armed at the cable car station. When Thomas came out, Bishop kept shooting at him until he ran into the street. Luckily, Ray arrived just in time and Thomas immediately ran into his car. While in the car, Ray sees that Thomas is injured by Bishop's gunfire. He then took Thomas to an apartment and treated his gunshot wound. When Ray and Thomas are at the apartment, Ray's boss calls and informs him that the person who is targeting Thomas is named Bishop, a former military member turned dangerous assassin. Turns out, the reason Ray and his superiors protected Thomas was because they wanted to arrest Cooper because he was involved in the biggest illegal arms trade case in America. Elsewhere, Bishop continues to search for Thomas and Ray's whereabouts via the sophisticated computer in his car. He could track the car that Ray was using from the GPS installed in the car. He went straight to the apartment where Thomas and Ray were hiding. As Thomas and Ray are about to head out to look for Carly, they are intercepted by Bishop in the hallway of the apartment, who comes out of the elevator and shoots at them. They avoided by hiding behind the doors in the apartment's hallway and managed to get back into their rooms. They then took a stockpile of weapons to attack Bishop. A shootout was inevitable where Bishop repeatedly fired his gun at them, and unfortunately Ray was injured by Bishop's shot. Thomas immediately took Ray to the car and they left the apartment. Unfortunately, Ray can't be saved because he bleeds and dies in the car when they escape from the apartment. Meanwhile, Bishop continues to chase their car, until finally, Bishop was able to find their car parked in the aisle. When he got down and checked, he only saw Ray's body sitting in the car, but he didn't find Thomas. Then, he returned to his car. When he was sitting in his car, suddenly from the rearview mirror he saw Thomas had a gun pointed at his neck and asked him to keep driving and go to a dock. Arriving at the dock, Bishop was tied to a wooden pillar with a rope. Thomas asks him to call Cooper and tell him that he killed Thomas and took Carly. However, during negotiations, Bishop managed to untie the ropes using a small knife hidden behind his glove. The fight happened again. They fought on the pier with equal strength. However, Thomas finally pushed Bishop by kicking him really hard into the water. He immediately drove the car to look for his daughter's whereabouts. Elsewhere, it looks like Cooper has managed to get to Carly's hiding place. Cooper and his men can knock out the police and Stacy. Cooper kept persuading Carly to come with him. Meanwhile, Thomas, who had also arrived at Carly's hideout, saw many Cooper's men on guard outside. One by one, Cooper's men were killed by Thomas. Unfortunately, just as he was about to go inside, Bishop confronted him again, and the fight broke out again. At first, Thomas looks overwhelmed to overthrow Bishop. However, when Bishop attacks him with an axe, he fends it off and pushes Bishop towards the axe to his death. When he entered his daughter's safe house, he picked up a knife lying in the kitchen room. He continued to walk into a room where Carly was seen with Cooper and his assistant. Pointing a gun, Thomas asked Cooper to let Carly go. Cooper's assistant then swiftly pointed a gun at Thomas. Cooper immediately stood up and asked Thomas to throw his gun in front of his daughter. Seeing his frightened daughter, Thomas finally threw his gun on the floor. Unexpectedly, Cooper and his female assistant pointed a gun at him together. Thomas threw the knife he had taken in the kitchen room, then jumped to get his gun and shot back at Cooper's assistant with a very fast movement. As it turned out, the knife he had thrown hit Cooper in the stomach and soon he died. Likewise, his assistant was also shot dead during the shootout with Thomas. Carly ran to her father and hugged him. We can see how a daughter is always a princess to her father from this film. Thomas is willing to risk his life to save his daughter even though he has to deal with an assassin. We can also take the message from this film that it is good to have a good relationship with the in-laws so as not to cause conflict if we are married. This is because everything can be appropriately discussed without involving a third person to avoid bad things from happening.